Audio arts constitutes without question the largest and most wide-ranging sound archive devoted to art and artists in the world. Audio arts began as a simple idea, a sound magazine of recorded interviews with artists. With the invention in the early 1960s of the Philips tape player, it was an idea whose time had come. I trained as a visual artist, which I think is an important thing to mention from the outset. This project called Audio Arts is not a project that's, although it is in a way literary, it's not one that's come out of a kind of a literary background in terms of myself. It's come out of a fine art, visual arts context. And I trained as a painter and at the Royal Academy Schools and went on to establish audio arts at a time when there was a lot of discourse going on in the art world. This is the early 70s, the beginning of conceptual art, but very little of that discourse got into any kind of publication. And we devised this idea of a magazine. And then it was the time when the Philips audio cassette was being introduced into this country. It just seemed to be in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. Here was something that could disseminate contemporary art, albeit through speech and through words, without it having to fill a gallery with objects. This has been the nerve centre really of audio arts for quite a long time, since the 80s. And everything gets done in this room, apart from the original recordings, of course. But up until about 8 years ago, they're recorded on analog tape and transferred to reel to Revox, and then edited. You can see the leader tape there, and then transferred onto a master cassette to that machine, and then from that machine down to a cassette duplicator. The cassette became quite rapidly a completely redundant piece of technology. Yeah, significant milestone really along the road was producing an issue of Audio Arts, which was in fact 3 cassettes and a booklet called Live to Air. I was aware of an increasing number of contemporary artists working in sound, and I thought, well, the time has come, this is 1982, to draw this material together rather like a group exhibition. And this brings back in the idea of curation. So I curated this exhibition, you could say. I divided it into 4 sections: rock idioms, images and narratives, technological and audio space, urban reference. That's been one of the most important publications that I think Audio Arts has produced. The book and what's in it does contribute to the discourse of contemporary art in a way that extends it logically from its original source material, where it certainly had an effect on the discourses of contemporary art and the work people were doing. If you talk to an artist, it affects them as much as it affects you. And I've interviewed Tracy Emin, and this is before she was who she is now and famous. And we did a lot of tapes there, and she enjoyed them. And again, I think it was someone wishing to engage with her on her own level of an artist thinking creatively, and not kind of wishing to bash her down creatively in terms of her answers. I think Anish Kapoor is a significant one. Anish brought back in the idea of the spiritual, and that was quite a revelation, because he'd had developed a vocabulary to talk about the spiritual, whereas most of the rest of us hadn't really. We didn't consider that to be important. So things like that came through the interview. This is Andy Warhol, who, again, I made an interview with, and I went to the upstairs in the Anthony Doffey Gallery, and we sat having a very frugal lunch, lettuce leaves and water. The answers were purely yes or no. He was very good at fielding the press, and would talk almost as though he wasn't there, So he had that ability to talk to you but not really talk to you. An interview or a conversation doesn't end where it begins, so something happens along the way, as it does creatively when you make a piece of work. You start off with a blank piece of paper and you end up with something on it. The discourse of the interview then contributes to the discourse of the work and how the work develops. And I think in the book it's extended again through people reading it.